in a new study that we just put out with the Brookings Institution, we estimate that the financing need for global green structural transformation is about $7.6 trillion, or about 7.4% of global GDP per year till 2030, 2035. We're already investing about 5.5% of that. So we need about 2.1% of GDP of financing to make this transformation. And as we say with our UNCTAD project, in addition to the public finance that needs to be mobilized, we need to repivot and calibrate the rules towards Paris alignment and the Sustainable Development Goals to make this just transition. So we're more than 3/4 of the way there, and there's been an incredible mobilization of finance. The multilateral development banks, World Bank, African Development Bank, and so forth, they've all pledged to stop financing coal, to eventually phase out of oil and gas on the upstream, and commit to about a third to, in some cases, 70% of their balance sheets going towards green technologies. And now there's even a new, the China Development Bank, the Development Bank of South Africa, there's been a huge mobilization of development finance. Just this week, the Development Bank of South Africa created a Green Structural Transformation Fund. All of the Southern-led development finance institutions, they're part of something called the International Development Finance Club, and the multilaterals that are backed largely by Western countries, both of those groups in December of 2018 decided to align their balance sheets with the Paris Climate Accord. So we're moving in the right direction. There's also been a group established of 34 central banks around the world that are aligning to Paris. So there's lots of movement, even though with some of the biggest countries and some of the biggest emitter, like the United States, are dragging back. The rest of the world is moving ahead.
I was actually just going to ask that. Are there any leader countries or sectors in this global green?
Sure. On one level, domestically, China is perhaps one of the biggest leaders. They have peaked their coal consumption, they have committed to phase out of coal, and they have become the most globally competitive in wind, solar, and electric vehicles, and they're slowly making a transformation at home. Unfortunately, they're an example of how a green national New Deal can't succeed unless it's a global one. Because one of the ways that China is making the transition, as is Japan, I would put them as a leader domestically, and South Korea as a leader domestically. But what they're doing is using their development finance institutions to export their coal industries around the world. So they're using their development finance at home to subsidize and make a transformation towards wind, solar, and electric vehicles. But these big coal and oil industries at home are large firms that employed a lot of people over 100 years and are very connected to the government, and they're getting special development finance loans to build coal plants in Indonesia, in South Africa, in Malawi, and Vietnam around the world, and not so the net emissions aren't going down, even though they're national leaders. So I put South Korea, China, Japan as national leaders, although they're not squaring their national Green New Deals, so to speak, with their international development finance policy.